Aetherpunk, a world where magic and fantasy becomes a technological superpower, a utopia of arcane prowess that results in floating cities bathed in gold, streetlights powered by magical gems, and teleportation and rune-enhanced armor that are used by the common man. Electricity, fossil fuels, and solar power are all thrown away for the superior resource, the dangerous and limitless magic. But how is this genre different from your regular fantasy? Just how far can you push it? What kind of stories can only Aetherpunk fulfill? And what are some resources we can gather to inspire our own storytelling tabletop games? Well, this is the Cleric Corner. My name is Riker, and here we will answer all of those questions in our exploration of one of many punk genres. Thanks to all of you who gave our landslide vote.
You want it? You got it.
If you want to see other punk genre exploration videos, check out the playlist here, and subscribe to vote on and get alerted for future videos. Stay until the end of this one, and you'll get something for free, on me, as always. But let's get into it. Imagine the fantasy world that you're in now. Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms, Wheel of Time, etc, etc. Now fast forward time thousands of years, skipping the Renaissance and Industrial Age until you get to an alternate future that is its own golden age of magic. Gold being a keyword as it's often depicted with buildings and architecture gilded by it, along with stained glass artwork and ancient pagan imagery in the detailed Art Nouveau aesthetic. It is when society as a whole has uncovered the mysteries of magic and applied it as a science. Steampunk is to the real world as Aetherpunk is to your medieval fantasy. It is often depicted with Victorian age vibes with top hats and long dresses, but infused with magical devices instead of gears and pistons. Think Asgard from the Marvel franchise, a medieval vibe applied to futuristic technology powered by magic.
Viking space magic.
Usually, Aetherpunk isn't quite into the space age or era, though it still can be. You can have flying cars, but also dragons. And this application of magic can look a number of different ways. Gems or crystals with magical properties, or magic being stored within them. Runes being transcribed or carved into armor and weapons, giving them magical properties. Magic guns shooting energy beams instead of bullets. Magic being an actual substance like gas or liquid, stored and depleted upon use. It could also be something naturally occurring or scientifically harnessed. Sometimes it's a mix of all of these things. These sciences being called Magitech or Mathemagics, which is a really fun word to say. But in some cases, magic is not the only science competing for the spotlight, and can be specifically put at odds with non-magical technologies like gunpowder, electricity, gears, and wires.
I'm talking about science, not magic.
It's magic versus the machines, or Doctor Strange versus Iron Man, an Archmage wizard fighting an Artificer in a mech suit. Aetherpunk is also known as Arcane Punk, Magic Punk, or Mage Punk, and this is where the punk part of it comes in. Where a genre like Cyberpunk is an exploration of technology being used as an oppressive force, Aetherpunk often explores the effects of magical technology being too powerful, even for those that may be oppressing. But being a utopia, it is the story of hubris of individuals testing the limits of magic, resulting in the end of the utopia itself. In Critical Role's Dungeons & Dragons live play series, you have both the Calamity and Downfall episodes that is a prime example of this. One floating city caused their own downfall due to uncontrollable magic, and another floating city with technology so powerful that the gods themselves were threatened and came down to intervene and destroy.
I can't have that.
So yes, Aetherpunk stories can often put mortals on the levels of gods. If the magic in your story is naturally occurring, there also may be conflict between communities naturally attuned to the magical aether, those who desire to harness and exploit it, and those who feel it should be shared between the two groups. It can also highlight the disparity between the upper class that has access to this magic and the lower class who gets to deal with the scraps. Other themes can include nationalism, colonialism, exploration, and citizen exploitation, but are not limited to those things. There are many TTRPG settings and systems that evoke the Aetherpunk aesthetic in very evocative ways. Numenera, a very good example of science fantasy published by Monty Cook Games, explores Earth 1 billion years into the future. Pathfinder has their Aethera campaign setting, which is spacefaring setting that is the fantasy counterpart to Starfinder's Sci-Fi. Some setting used with the Savage Worlds rule system cover Aetherpunk realities, as well as the Titan's Grave setting of Fantasy Age, though that one has more cyberpunk and biopunk themes, but they actually had a Geek and Sundry show that used the system with Laura Bailey, and I had never heard of that, so I thought that would be fun to mention.
I know what you're here for.
Another newer system you could get your hands on is this video's sponsor, Krunken Worlds, a science fantasy system with a 6 and 10-sided dice at their core, identified as a humorous and irreverent TTRPG that never takes itself seriously. If your group is the rowdy type laughing through expletives and spilling beer, then this may just be the game for you. Wacky, memeable, and comical tones are their forte. With a name that derives its name from the words crazy and drunk, Krunken Worlds was created to evoke imagery from a Scott Pilgrim comic or similar vibes to a Rick and Morty adventure.
It's just Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty and their adventure.
Aetherpunk is only one of many genres that can coexist in the setting. All the different worlds part of some grand story and influence each other. Explore 9 classes, each with 3 specializations and over 60 unlockable talents unlocked with Krunk points. Distributing health across 6 body locations are one of many video game inspired mechanics. Back the Kickstarter now and get a 350-page handbook, pre-generated characters, and 20 starting missions across the sectors of the Milky Way galaxy. Live until September 26th, linked in the description below. But whatever TTRPG system that you're playing, let's pull inspiration from other Aetherpunk media. Perhaps the most obvious example would come from the Netflix series Arcane, based on League of Legends, which would also fall under this category. Higher profile persons explore the discovery of this magical technology called Hextech and use it to empower weapons to enforce order, much to the fear of the older council members. In contrast, the underbelly of the city creates Shimmer, a magical stimulant drug that grants superhuman strength, speed, and durability. All of this to push against order for freedom. But even though one represents order and the other represents chaos, both corrupt the individuals who wield them, both in want for power. But the question still remains, how will this new discovery of magical technology change the world itself? In the animated movie Atlantis, you have Milo Thatch rediscovering the lost city after a tsunami hit it from the world for thousands of years. Some of his travel mates, however, turn on him and attempt to steal the magic crystal that has protected Atlantis all this time. The magic in this case is again something that greedy individuals want for use of their own gain, but in the end, the magic itself is not seen as the thing that corrupts. It is something to be feared, but something also to protect and cherish, almost to a religious, cultural, or ancestral point of view. Now looking at video game examples, Skyrim tends to be more of a fantasy genre, except when you plunge beneath the surface and find the ruins of the Dwemer, a race of deep elves or dwarves that discover technologies to rival the gods themselves, but then all at once, they disappeared. And while you don't play within the world of the Dwemer during their heyday, we do get to learn from their historical relics as almost a warning. What they believed is that magic was not given by the gods. In fact, they held magic and religion entirely separate. They wanted to empower themselves to godhood, not out of reverence, but out of defiance. But whatever they faced at the end of their ascension brought them nothing but extinction. Or exaltation, who's to say? But it actually makes me wonder for other stories, what if magic and religion were considered the same thing? What if the church was the one who controlled the forceful hand of magical technology? Or what if a magical technology came from a divine source instead of an arcane one? Which is kind of the case for another setting of inspiration, the D&D setting of Eberron. With its magical monorails, airships, magical guns, and walking wooden robots called Warforged, it falls under the Aetherpunk category. Some of their magic comes from ancient deific dragons that created the world, manifesting as dragon or kyber shards, and draconic birthmarks that empower 13 factions in different ways. Magical advancements were actually the result of a 100-year war, pushing the citizens to create bigger and better weapons and travel technology. Unfortunately, the power of magical advancement became too much and resulted in a magical equivalent of a nuclear bomb and created a magical fallout. Fortunately, this resulted in the war ending and the surviving members signing a peace treaty, and now hopefully can learn from their mistakes and create a better utopia. It's actually kind of funny, in researching for this video, I actually had to go and rewatch my own video on Eberron, because I totally forgot. So if you wanted to see a full breakdown of history and characters from that setting, I will add that to the cards. But here we see different results from this genre of magical technology. Starting with Arcane's Hex Tech, we see the start of that journey. Will they find a reverence and respect for the magic like Atlantis? Will they use it to progress farther and farther until there is nothing left like the Dwemer? Or will they learn from their mistakes and make peace with their enemies, like in Eberron? Which actually brings us to our free content for this video. And since Eberron introduced us to the Artificer, a class specifically that brings technology and magic together, you can find a free Magitech Artificer subclass for your D&D games. A subclass that takes inspiration from the Eldritch Knight and Arcane Trickster to make an Artificer that empowers their weapons and creates a greater magical synergy with their attunements, plus with a little dash of paladin spells mixed in, linked in the description below. And if you want to support what I do, you can check out additional D&D content and other perks on my Patreon, including getting beautiful PDFs of the content today. Your support means everything and makes it possible to keep creating videos like this one, as me and my wife continue to try to make this channel financially make sense. Other settings you can research in your own time might include Ravnica and Kaladesh, both Magic the Gathering settings. Ravnica is another setting that I did a full breakdown for. Xenoblade, Final Fantasy, Shadowrun, and some Zelda games would also provide inspiration. And even some areas in World of Warcraft are definitely Aetherpunk inspired. I couldn't find many books in the genre, but Artemis Fowl is a good option that ties science and magic together, though it is more modern fantasy, which I actually did another breakdown of that one. Cards are full at this point, might as well just check out the full playlist of other unique punks and genres, and then let me know in the comments what you would include in your Aetherpunk settings and which genre I should cover next. Until then, go out there and make your worlds a better place. See ya.